I love the way the word vision came to this conference. And compared to a lot of you, I'm relatively new in Shackley. It was my
So,
ninth
somebody,
conference.
excuse me, Dave. Somebody's got some talking in the background. Can you please mute your line? Marion, I don't know if it's your Zoom. Marion Weimer, can you mute your line? Sorry about this, folks.
Yeah.
It's on my phone. What do you want to do? I just lost mute. Mute your screen. Says you've got background noise. It is muted.
Okay, go ahead, Steve. Sorry about that.
There we go. I unmuted again. Yeah. Let's see. Where was I? Vision.
Mm-hmm.
There was vision spoken from the home office. And in my short 10 years of my Shackley career, I am absolutely certain that's the first time I heard the word vision come from the home office. Maybe I wasn't paying attention before, but I don't think so. I think they're understanding that the thing that separates Shackley from the rest of the world is our philosophy, and the thing that keeps Shackley from being on top of the world is vision and not working on that vision. And I think they're finally getting it. And I'm getting it. I know I'm getting it. So that was fantastic. The other thing that, I'm a big, I love the history of Shackley. And having the speakers that spoke reflect that was incredible. Understanding the depth that we have compared to anybody else, it's the difference. It really is the Shackley difference. And when when you see that and you feel that philosophy, that Shackley philosophy, is so important.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it was great. We had a lot of field speakers, and I think that made a big difference as well. Who else wants to make some comments on Las Vegas?
Hey, Roland.
Yes, Mike.
I just wanted to say that out of all the conferences that I've attended, I think this is one of the better ones as far as just because of the speakers and what they were saying and how they were saying it. It was more related to your thinking and going ahead and doing things that you're not comfortable with and stuff like that, rather than all the rah, 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 sugar coated, you got to do this and this and this and this, and, to get 3 to get 4 to get 7 and all that kind of stuff. And there was some of that in there, but most of it from the speakers was just awesome. It reminded me a lot, like Steve said, with as far as what Richard's teaching us, that I'm sure that a lot of the people that spoke are on those calls, and that's maybe why they said what they said.
Sure. Very good. Thank you, Mike.
That was great.
Very good. Well, Heather, we had a 3-way call today, or 4-way. So you want to give some comments on who was on and what you got out of it, or what you think they got out of it?
Yeah, so my son, who's 17, has a friend who's 19, and his is quite an can you guys hear me? I'm having to use my earbuds. Okay. An entrepreneur already for the last several years. And the call went really well. He's excited. He's looking for a networking company to get involved with, and he loved hearing the philosophy of the company and what this is all about. I thought I noted how you were kind of pulling it away from him a little bit, like, well, I want you to think about this, take your time making this decision, and but he's ready to come to the meeting Saturday, and that's exciting. So.
Yeah, yep. It was a great call. Very good. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Well, I just got off a Zoom a few minutes ago and talking to this person who is in Shackley for only 1 month, and we had a good role play and a good talk and so on. But she asked a very valuable question. She said, how long is it going to take before I make some money? She wants to go to $60,000 a year. And I said, there are 2 things that are necessary. 2 things that make the difference. And I said, I can't tell you how long it's going to take for you. In a month I could, but right now I can't. And I said, the thing is, number 1 is how coachable you are. We've got products that work. We have a huge market. And I said, I'll be honest with you, most people don't want the coaching. They want to reinvent the wheel. And I explained that I said, I didn't make the rules. It's not my way of doing things. I have discovered certain things work. Just like Brandon was talking about, you must have more clarity of the future than of the present. And perhaps you have heard me say that 1,000 times. You must have more details of the future than of the present. And so he didn't invent anything. He just discovered the rules for making a successful business. They're just some basic rules. Basic rules in Shackley that you must build a relationship with people. You must be trustworthy with people. These are just basic fundamental things that nobody's made the rule. It just happens to be the way it is. And so a lot of people say, well, so-and-so said to do it this way. Well, they didn't make the rules. So it's what works. What makes sense. And that's what being coachable is all about. And I said, the other thing is that I don't know how willing you are to expand your thinking, because most people are afraid to really expand their thinking. Most people, when they talk about an income, they say, well, this is what I need, as she did, to replace my current income. That's where everybody is. That's not expanding their thinking very much, because it's just taking money from a different source to pay the same bills, and you have a different way of getting it. So it's not really expanding the thinking. One of the things that Richard talked about is challenging people to accomplish more, not pushing them, but challenging them. And as I told this lady upon conclusion of the call, I said, I get good feelings from you and everything else and what you're talking about. I said, $60,000 is very doable for you because you're a creative person. And I said, how come you are so creative? This is a question that most people do not ask. Why are you so creative in this particular situation? Just as I asked this 19-year-old. And many times people who are creative came from an environment or they were raised in a creative environment. And the 19-year-old said today, well, my dad was in sales and my mother is in a very creative thing with Warner Brothers or something out in California. That's where he learned it. I said to this lady, where did you learn to think out of the box like you would do? And she said, I never thought about it. She said, my mother. She said, my mother was in network marketing selling clothes in 1970. And she earned enough money to buy a car. And they made clothes. This was in Pennsylvania. And the Dutch making very good clothes, Pennsylvania Dutch, making very good clothes that she sold. I said, well, that's probably where you learned it. That's a valuable question to ask because it's all in the thinking. So two things, if a person is coachable and can they expand their thinking? Because many people are very, very fearful of success. When the geometric proportion starts going, many people back off and they're very, very fearful about it. So I said, I don't know. I can't tell you. But I do know we have products that work. We have a huge market, and I know how to tap the market. And I said many things, if you want to get into leadership, are things that you will learn that are very, very valuable. How do you deal with a person who lacks a lot of confidence because it seems like their life was a lot of failures? How do you work with a person who says when it rains, it pours? They're expecting bad things to happen if things start getting good. How do you work with a person who's been in a network marketing company and they had total failure and they spent a lot of money and didn't go anyplace? How do you help these people? Because it's all in the thinking. How do you help them with their thinking? And so consequently, if we can understand that it's those two basic things, being coachable and being willing to expand your thinking, we hold ourselves back. I talked to a couple in Las Vegas who are way, way down line in the group. And this gal, probably in her late 20s, couple of kids, has a group of women in her business, and her husband's very, very supportive. And he was there in Las Vegas. And so I talked to them, and I had them come up to the room along with all the people in their group. They had 7 of them, 7 women. And they're wanting to really grow. And I felt they were willing to expand their thinking. You can just tell some people, I don't want to think too big. I want to be realistic. I don't want to think too much. They just hold back. But they weren't that way. We're ready to take it all and make this thing happen. That's why I believe Heather's son, 17-year-old, he's not afraid of anything. I can just pick up that feeling. He's not afraid. A person like that who's not afraid, if he's coachable, in 3 years, he can be making a 6-figure income. If he doesn't think he's abnormal. Because he's going to look around, a lot of his friends who are 19 years of age or 20 years of age, they probably will not be making a 6-figure income. And so a lot of people feel they've got to be normal. So if he gets into that trap of I've got to be normal, that's going to slow him up. It has nothing to do with the possibility. And of course, his friend is already thinking as an entrepreneur, and he would not shy away from in 3 years he's making a 6-figure income or even less. He wouldn't shy away from it. So once again, it's all in the thinking. But I said to this couple who were coordinators, our coordinators, I said, you can be making a 6-figure income. You can be key coordinators in 12 months. How do you feel about that? I said, whoa, hey, we're getting a feeling that, yeah, based on what we've been hearing from you, we can do that. And I said, okay, to do that, I said to the husband, you've got to get in the business. I mean, he's very, very supportive, but he's thinking that he doesn't really have a part in the business. And I said, you've got to get in, because 1 + 1 = 10. I said, if you don't get in, it's going to take you 4 years to be at that income and be at that rank. Didn't make the rules. That's just the way it is. And I said, I will talk to one of the women in your group who may be a director, whatever, and then we'll talk to her husband, not to get him involved, but so we understand where he is. We'll record the call. And I said, you will learn from what I've said. So your job is now to get 2 other men in your group. If you do that, you'll be key coordinators in a year. So you can do that. And he said, okay, I understand. He said, all you need is just 2 more. You and 2 more, your business is going to sail. It's just going to sail. And so that was challenging him, like we heard from the speaker, Bouchard, saying, you got to challenge people. And what I was challenging him was real. Just as I told the person I had a call with this evening, I asked her, how do you go about talking to people? Because she's only been in a month, and she's selling. She was trying to sell everything. And I told her, I said, you will never, ever build a business. So we've got to be real with people, and that's what coaching is all about. Coaching is not being just supportive and saying, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it, and I know you're talking too much and you're turning everybody off and everything else, and you can do it, you can do it. No. A leader is somebody who's going to be able to figure out what they can do, but also at the same time pointing out why it may not happen. And I said, you'll never build a business doing it the way you're doing it. And she said, I've been feeling that. And so when I went over about asking the questions, learning about people and so on before you say anything, she said, that makes so much sense. I can do that. Because she was willing not to challenge it. I mean, she could have challenged it. It would have been fine. But because she was so open-minded, she could accept it and it made sense right away. And she said, that's easy. That's so much more comfortable to do than trying to figure out what I can sell them on. So these are just some basic things. And the reason I'm going over the fact that I don't make the rules is because I've heard some other people, not in this group at all, people outside my group actually saying, well, why doesn't he talk about just growing a little bit? And I said, I didn't make the rules. You know, Jim Burke was the one who talked about the breaking the barrier. When people get close to the barrier, they can't go past it. And he talked about how at one time he was looking for 10 sales leaders and he couldn't get 10. He only got 8, 9, 8, 9, 8, 9. That's where he said 8, 9. But then he started thinking about 20 sales leaders. And he said, I went right past 10, but then I was at 17, 18, 17, 18. I couldn't break the barrier. And many people say, well, I'm just going to work and become a director, and then I'm going to think about, it'll take you forever to get to a director. We got to think well past being a director. So the things that I learned at the conference that were so good, number one, it's the field that builds this business, because what made the conference so good, like Mike was talking about, most of them were all field speakers. They were all field speakers. And field speakers understand what's going on in the business. And so Shackley finally took the advice of the MAC, which has been out there many, many times, saying you have to have more field speakers. And that's what they did. The field makes the difference. And hearing some of the same stuff we've been talking about, clarity of the future. I had somebody, not in my group, but somebody asked a number of people at the conference, where are you going to be in 12 months? And she said it was like deer eyes in the headlights of the car. I mean, they didn't know what to say. They never thought about where they're going to be in 12 months. So this is the goal of these Zooms, is to help people to start really preparing for the future. And if you're willing to think out of the box and really to expand the thinking, we've got the product, we have the market, and we can have an incredible, incredible, incredible successful business. And as I have been projecting, and I know my projections are right, everything is falling into place. with Richard and everything else, we will have the biggest growth years that Shackley has ever, ever, ever had. I don't know how many of you heard Laura Evans say that she's going to have so many presidential masters, so many master coordinators, so many people at higher ranks, so many people in the group, so much volume. Did you hear all that? I know, Steve, you said you did, and you were looking at Roger and Heather, and you said, oh, their mouths were wide open like Hokey Pete. How many people stand on stage and saying, this is where I'm going? She did. Because she's not afraid of the future. She's not afraid of expanding her thinking. So I'm getting back from conference, getting up very, very early Monday morning. I get back and I no more and get off the plane, and there's a phone call from her saying, we got to put strategy into my business and how to develop all these presidential masters. I mean, that's what it takes. Comments on this, or did you pick up that feeling? Do you understand this concept of we've got to find out if people are coachable? And are they willing to expand their thinking? It's okay if they don't, but I can't force them to expand their thinking. You can't either. What are you thinking?
Well, Roland, like you were mentioning, what Laura said was so right on. It was so strong. If you were listening, it should have set you back in your seat. And I had an vantage point where I could see both Roger and Heather from where I was, and it set them back in there, right? It did. And as it did me. And likewise, I spoke to maybe 15 people at conference and asked them the question, where will you be in 12 months from now, this time next year? Only 2 of them answered the question. The rest of them, the question just they hadn't even thought of it. And sadly, the other 2, it was going to be 1 rank higher than they were right now. And boy, if you didn't learn anything from Brendan, it was, you got to think bigger. If you're thinking about this, you'll never get to this. You got to think about this to get to that. So.
Mm-hmm. Did you thank you for doing that, Steve? Did you ask the people how they were going to meet that next rank?
Yes.
And what did they say?
Oh, they had all kinds of action plans, but no vision. I'm gonna talk to more people. No, not I'm going to. Even I need to talk to more people. I should do this. The word need and should, the two words that I have avoided from my vocabulary, thanks to you, sir. But yeah, it was. Well, I need to do this. I should do that. I hope to do this. It was actually very sad. It was very sad.
Yeah, I mean, the comparison I've given before, it's like somebody going to take a trip and I ask them, where are you going to go? The car is all packed. They filled up the gas tank with gas, and they got all the toys for the kids to play with and everything else. And where are you going? I don't know. But you put gas in the car, you got some snacks in the car, you got the kids in the car, you got luggage in the car, you got everything in the car. Where are you going? I don't know. And we would say, oh, come on. That is about as bad as it gets. You mean to tell me you put gas in the car, kids in the car, food in the car, luggage and everything else, and you don't know where you're going? Uh-huh. You mean to tell me you're working at Shackley, you're talking to people, you're trying to sponsor people in, you're trying to get members into Shackley, you're trying to talk to them about the product, and you're spending time, you're doing meetings, you're doing Zooms, you're doing webinars, you're doing all this, and where are you going? Don't know. It's the same thing. It is the same thing. Questions or comments on this? This is the real stuff, folks. This is the real stuff. Talk to me, Marion. You have to unmute your line.
Yes, you're right. I had to go to another computer to get this to work tonight for some reason. Anyhow, we've made a goal to be senior masters, and I know that we need to look on to presidential, but I have this block of, I think, gee, I think I might be too old to make presidential master, because yet I want to look beyond the senior, but I'm having a hard time doing that. And, because you get all these stupid thoughts in your head. But, what Brandon said, about you've got to have a clear picture of that future. And this is what I've been working on, thinking on. Ever since we left the conference, there's so many things that can get in your way. I mean, like our thinking, like what we've been talking about. And if we've got to clear that up or clean that up, however you want to put it, before we can move on forward. So that's what I've been thinking. That Roger, I got a chance to talk to him just a couple of seconds, and he asked, "What did you think of the convention, at the conference?" I said, "Roger, it was over the top, and I repeated about 12 times. I said the speakers were excellent. So, I was happy to be able to just. We didn't talk for long, because he was running somewhere. But anyhow, I mean, he again gets the message that it's over the top. It was over the top."
Mm-hmm. Very good. Thank you for that. Well, I agree with you. To make senior master quicker, you focus on presidential. Because if our focus is the next rank, you've got to be a rank above that to make that next rank. Otherwise, we slow down our creative thinking. You've probably heard me give the example before. If you're going to run a mile, it's always the last few hundred feet of the mile that are the most difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go to run 2 miles, you go right past the 1 mile. It's always the last few hundred feet that are the most difficult. So if you want to make 2 miles easy, then you run 3.
Mm-hmm.
So we must be looking past that most immediate next rank. And the higher you think, believe me, if you start thinking of running a marathon, then you pass all the mile markers very, very fast.
Mm-hmm.
And you say, why do some people move on up in Shackley quickly? Because they're not thinking of the next rank or the next 2 ranks. Like this couple that I was talking to about becoming key coordinators, they would surpass senior coordinator, executive, senior executive, and finally key. They would pass by 3 ranks to get to that 4th rank of key in 1 year. And if they think of becoming a senior executive, or not even a senior executive, they think of becoming a senior coordinator, we're going to go to that rank. To get to key coordinator is going to take them 5 years. That's something. You talk about everybody saying, well, I want to save time. I only have so much time. That's how you save time. I'd like to get some comments or questions on this, because this is really so valuable to building in Shackley. We are holding ourselves back. I've done it 1,000 times, so I know what I'm talking about.
Roland, that's exactly right. You've done 1,000 times, and so have I. When I start figuring out, I figure out, the volume that has to be. We have to have 100,000 above our biggest leg, or such. And I start figuring out what has to be there, and then I look at that and I think, oh my gosh, But then if I figure out what it takes to be a presidential, That's more, quite a bit more. But if I can keep my thinking, which I'm working on, at presidential, I know just exactly what you're saying. You'll have people coming out of the woodwork to become business leaders, to become that six-figure income person. So, anyhow.
Plus, if I'm looking for presidential masters, I'm going to be talking to people and asking questions differently than if I'm looking for somebody to be a master. The questions are going to be different. In other words, if I'm looking for a director, the questions are going to be different than if I'm looking for somebody who's going to become a key coordinator. If I'm looking for a director, I'm looking for somebody who's going to get a lot of customers. But I'm not expecting them to find anybody who wants to build a business. I'm not ready to teach them leadership skills, because to be a key coordinator, you must teach people and they must learn leadership skills. So my questions are going to be totally different. Questions, comments? Help me out here.
Roland, it strikes me also that if your vision is no bigger than the next rank, then you're constantly having to retool. So you reach your vision, now where? You plateau. And there's going to be a lag before you start thinking about another vision and what's that going to take. As opposed to, as you said, if your goal is a marathon, then you run past the mile markers, a whole bunch of them, before you even start thinking about the race getting difficult. So we're having to do that because honestly, at the beginning of this, it was easier for us to think about just an incremental step, because we've been kind of sitting at the level where we are right now for quite some time. So initially it was easier to think about, well, let's just go to the next step. But then we quickly realized that was counterproductive, and we'll get there much more effectively if we look way past that.
That's so good, Dick. Thank you for that. And the stronger we can cast that vision for the future and have that really in our minds, that will carry us through some uncomfortable situations. As an example, in Las Vegas, I wanted to talk to a lot of people. I wanted to help people that maybe I haven't talked to personally in other groups, my group, and so on, and help them out. So I was really searching to do this because I've got a very, 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 very big goal, good purpose, okay? Well, on Friday evening, when I go to my room, I find out that there's some water damage in my room. And I thought, well, maybe the cleaning lady spilled something on the carpet because they had the blowers in there trying to dry everything out. All the tables were moved back. So I go on into the bedroom, and the bed is made and everything. And so then I get a call about 11 o'clock at night saying that you've got to get out of your room because of the water damage. So I go down to the desk, and they take forever to try to get another room. And finally they come out from the back and say, well, it's going to cost you $1,400 for water damage. Well, it's not easy to sleep at night. All of a sudden you get a bill for $1,400. I said, what happened? Well, a faucet was left on. And I obviously was not happy at all. And I didn't want to sign it. They wanted me to sign this thing, but I wouldn't get another room unless I signed it. And then so I have to go to a completely different part of the hotel to get another room. And so I'm making a couple of trips with my stuff rather than packing everything very well and trying to take everything at one time. So the third time I go back, I can't get in the room. So I call security and I said, I've got one more thing in the room. And they say, you can't get in the room because somebody's in the room. And I said, nobody's in the room. They said, yeah, somebody's in the room. Well, you're going to have to go to the front desk, straighten it out. I go to the front desk. I'm there for 30 minutes. Guy goes to the back of he doesn't come out. I'm pacing back and forth, and they have water behind the counter in these bottles, and I'm drinking their water, drinking their water, drinking their water. And finally, the little weasel comes out that first gave me the thing that I had to sign, which I eventually signed. And he said, no, there's nobody in the room. We've locked the room, and you can't get in. I said, I've got something in the room. He said, well, I'll go up there and get it and then bring it to your other room. I said, no, I will go up there with you. He said, well, you can't go in the room. I said, I will stay in the hall. He said, it's going to be about 20 minutes. So this thing goes on forever. So finally he comes up, and I get the last thing out of the room, and I go back and so on. But I got to thinking about this. And I got to thinking, when I was in the room on Friday afternoon and left about 1:30, the room had not been cleaned. And I asked him, how did you know there was a water problem? Because it was leaking in the room below. They did not say that the housekeeping discovered the water. And so why would she have come in and made the bed and everything else if there was water damage? So I soon came to the conclusion she left the water faucet running because it was a very quiet one. You don't even hear it running. It was at the bar area. You don't even hear it running. And so they told me, like I said, somebody discovered the water leaking, and I noticed all the lights were on in my closets, and the cleaning people don't leave the lights on in your closets, but they were checking the other rooms to see if there was water damage. So I finally realized she left it on, and I got the bill for $1,400. But this is where you can say your little prayer, which was said many times, and knowing that it's going to work out. And at the same time, I'm meeting with people the next day, talking to people, and you're trying to talk about positive things, and you got a $1,400 bill. But if the goal was not there, I would have canceled the meetings, because I just would not have been of the frame of mind with very little sleep that night to be able to talk. But I did. Had some great meetings because the goal was stronger than the water damage. Big goal. And I'm trying to figure out, who do I talk to? Do I talk to Kevin? Who do I talk to? And I really believe things will work out for you if you have a big goal, a big purpose, say a prayer. And it just so happened, as we were going for the master dinner, Kathy Keating and I were about the last ones going in, and she said, you with anybody? And I said, no. She said, well, you want me to be your escort? And I said, fantastic. I said, Kathy, I don't know if I should be telling you this or not, or who I should talk to, but I explained it to her. And I barely got into the story. She says, oh, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. Things come together when you have that goal. Things are going to happen that you couldn't have planned. I could not have planned that Kathy was the one to talk to, not Kevin. And I tried to talk to Kevin all day Saturday, but he was really busy, and so I didn't try too hard because he was on stage, off stage, on stage. But if you can just understand that things will come to you, business will fall in your lap, things will fall out of the sky for you if you have a big purpose. You'll get creative. Things will just happen. And they did. They happened perfectly. And she said, nah, we'll take care of it. That's just too bad the way they treated you, because they didn't offer to help me move my stuff. They were just not nice people at the front desk, believe me. And that also told me how people want to be appreciated. They never said, we're sorry it happened. Could we help you move your stuff? Sorry you're in another tower and stuff. None of that. People want to be appreciated, and what a business we're in that we can appreciate people. That is so powerful. So everything worked out well. When I left the hotel, I did not have an additional $1,400 to pay. And then the thing that still bugs me is that it wasn't my fault. So this is why we have that goal, and I'm just asking you, if you want to increase your business, you stretch your thinking. It's not going to be the activity. It's stretching your thinking, because things will fall out of the sky for you, and people will join you that will not join you if you're just going to the next goal, if that's your focus. They will not join you because they can pick up vibrations from you that are not strong and compelling for them to join. People, I can tell you right now, Heather, people will pick up vibrations from your son and they'll pick up vibrations from Jacob that are good because they're not going to think minimal. Questions? What are you thinking? Michelle, Rob, you have any questions?
I'm just very curious about the plan. As you know, we're just starting, or at least I know for me, there's a lot there to think about with the vision. I went at it the wrong way with selling. And I said to Michelle, I go, we have to start asking people, do you think you're a salesperson? And when they say no, and they say, perfect, we have the greatest opportunity for you. Just twist it around a little bit. But I do believe in having a vision is really important. And we do appreciate your guidance with that.
Sure. Well, one of the questions I was asked in the other Zoom is, okay, so you have the goals. What is vision casting? And I said, vision casting would be, as an example, when you reach a certain milestone in Shackley, you celebrate with your husband. Maybe you're going to go to Europe for a trip. I said, vision casting is maybe you want to go to the beaches and you feel the sand between your toes. You feel that gratification. And many times it's the gratification of things that you can do for others. You feel the good of doing that. And that's vision casting. You want to feel it. So that way, when you're driving down the highway and you think of these good things you're going to do, maybe it's taking your family on a vacation or something, you're thinking of this and you just get goosebumps. You get a big smile on your face. You feel it. When you feel it, you're going to make it happen faster. When you feel it. So the goal is, I've got a picture of it and so on, but when you feel it, it's going to happen quicker. Gary, any questions?
No, I do not. I missed the convention, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just sitting here soaking it in right now.
Good. Yep. Very good. Yeah, it was very good. I mean, everybody left with a great feeling. Very good. Any other comments or any other questions?
Roland, you're talking about vision casting, and I just had to say, because this happened to me. I'm sitting there, I'm listening to Harper Guerrera give her master speech, and which was very good. But what came to me was I started right there picturing Linda and I's master speech and writing my master speech.
Oh, that's good.
And it was it was right there. It was right there. It was so cool. That's not where I want to be. That's where I'm going to be. That's how I'm, and it was right on. So
that is so good, Steve, because that's another great thing to do is write your master speech. You get the feeling. Very good. Pam?
Yeah. Marion, thanks for sharing that, because even as a master, we realize that we have blocks and walls. And I just so appreciated a few weeks ago when Ruth Kuntz she took coaching from Richard, and he kept telling her to forget her history. And so I have been trying to do that too, because it's been a long spread where I haven't had much success. And so I just found that to be tremendous and have shared it with several people. And also the fact that even if our thinking isn't perfect, we're still making progress. So, I mean, I'm very happy about that. And the people in our organization, i.e. our daughter, you know, that's a great encouragement to us. So we receive and we give. And, but I love that, forgetting my history, because our heart and our mind wants to stick on that history, where you may not have been where you wanted to be at any particular time. And so you look on that as the truth currently, and it's not. And it's not going to hold us back. So I just love that phrase.
Very good. Yes, yes, that's a great point. So many people dwell on the history, and they look at the things that didn't go well many times, and instead of taking those experiences and learning from them. I don't know who it was, Richard maybe said that those are not failures, or those are learning lessons that help us to be better and to move ahead. Any other last comments? Because what I would like to do in the future is to, as you talk about your business, where your business is going to be in 12 months. So we can talk about the strategy of doing that, because sometimes we're looking at it in a way that is not going to be as productive as it should. So in other words, by doing that, figuring out what your group is going to look like to make $60,000 a year. How many first level directors? Are there going to be second level directors? Are there going to be third level directors? And everybody has access to the sales plan to look at the percentages. So that way it's just like building a house. We know what the house is supposed to look like. So that way you can show the plans to the engineer, you can show the plans to the person who's putting in the plumbing, to the electrician. Everybody sees the plans. So if you're working with a team, then it's great that everybody sees your plan. But if people do not understand what their group is going to look like, that's like trying to build a house, and I don't know what kind of a house you want because I don't see any plans. I may build a dog house. That's what I thought you wanted. I don't know. So this is where I would like to go. I would like to have someone, probably each Zoom, go over their plans. And how many first levels, what, you know, and as you have questions, as you're putting it together, ask. I do not show anyone, here's what your group will look like to make 60,000. Because that's like driving to a location, you're the passenger, you won't remember how we got there. So that's why you start working on it, but that's where I want to go with these Zooms. And Marion, talking about being senior master. So we can talk about the strategy as to where we're going to get the volume, where we're going to get the people, where we're going to build. I love doing that. It's just like when I was talking to Laura Evans, and she said, okay, explain again why you're working down there, because she said, where you're working, neither one of us will earn a dime. I said, that's right. But this is what it's going to produce here. This is what it's going to produce here. This is what it's going to be. Okay, now I see what you're talking about. That's strategy. But if I didn't know what she's planning on doing and all the masters she plans on getting, what do I have to offer?
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, if you would do that, and we'd probably only have time for one on each Zoom, to be able to go over what your group is going to look like in 12 months, what it's going to look like in 2 years. And that's where we will save a lot of time, because I find so many people are putting in too much time and not getting paid for it because there's no plan behind it, no focus. Okay, so can we do that? To see what your group is going to look like a year from now. I mean, Heather, I would love to, after those guys come to that meeting on Saturday, I tell you, I could put a real good plan together, but you have to do it. What would happen if they take off and they both become executives in a year? How many sales leaders would that give you? Well, then you start adding it up and you say, gee, a couple more first levels and another leg going down. I could be key. Huh, wonder what my parents are thinking. Oh boy, I'm thinking all the time. Okay, well, thank you for being on. I really appreciate your comments, appreciate your questions. But this is where we want to go on these Zooms, looking at somebody's business, and we'll learn from everybody as we put strategy into what is going to make that thing really, really click so we can get there as quickly as possible, most efficiently, and so on. But we've got to see a plan. Where's it going to be in 1 year? Where's it going to be in 2 years? That'll be good. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Roland.
Thank you.
You bet.